Me, this was really the big domestic story of the day. We remember this clip, don't we?
We've got children and women using those trains to stealing some relatives. They are disgusting, nasty bastards, and we need to cut their throats and get rid of them all. I just want to say thank you all. I'm going to leave it now. And free! Palestine! Free! Palestine! Free! Palestine! Thank you, God bless you all.
Right, so you think, well, that's on film, isn't it? So could have been seen as being relatively cut and dry there, but that was Ricky Jones urging people to cut the throats of what he claimed were far-right fascists. He was a Labour councillor at the time. He was suspended shortly after that clip emerged. He was initially remanded in custody and then released on bail. He was charged with encouraging violent disorder, and then today, this happened.
News, of course.
Yes, what a morning it's turning into, eh? We've just heard from Snaresbrook Crown Court that Labour councillor Ricky Jones, 58, has been found not guilty of inciting violent disorder after making a throat-slitting gesture and saying that right-wingers should have their throats slit after the Southport murders last year. He's been found not guilty by a jury at Crown Court.
Yeah, well, there you go, not guilty. Apparently it was out of character for him. But what's important here is not the fact that maybe necessarily he was found not guilty. It is also the fact that he pleaded not guilty, which is really why there was a jury trial. And that's the key bit for me, because he got legal advice. And his legal advice was obviously plead not guilty. We think we can beat this if it goes to a jury. Lucy Connolly did not get that advice, did she? In fact, she pled guilty to the offence of distributing material with the intention of stirring up racial hatred. Let's remind ourselves what she posted. We're going to have to blur out certain words here, but mass deportation now, set fire to all the effing hotels full of the bees, for all I care. If that makes me racist, then so be it. Now, look, hey, obviously, I'm not defending what she said. Yeah, it's pretty rogue, really, to say stuff like that. However, she deleted that post and then apologised very quickly. She's currently serving 31 months behind bars, while Ricky Jones is tonight a free man after doing an actual throat-slitting gesture and apparently urging people to cut people's throats on film. And, you know, why did she and dozens of other people who were prosecuted, some for really, really minor offences, plead guilty? Was it that there's a left-wing legal profession giving them really bad advice? More on that, by the way. We found out a bit of information about the judge in that Ricky Jones case. Could it be that they were threatened, really, with huge prison sentences? They were sat down and they were told, look, if you plead not guilty here and you get found guilty, you're looking at 10 years behind bars. And these people had never come into contact with the law before, so they thought, I'll tell you what, I'll take 2.5 years. Could some of that pressure, though, have come from this man?
For 400 people now have been arrested, 100 have been charged, some in relation to online activity, and a number of them are already in court. And I'm now expecting substantive sentencing before the end of this week. That should send a very powerful message to anybody involved, either directly or online.
Well, I am convinced that if more people prosecuted for social media posts had been told to plead not guilty, they would have been found not guilty by a jury, like this man.
And I warned that this type of thing was going to start happening. We, as a community, should not let any of these type people into our valley, OK? We shouldn't let any of these migrants who've just come into the country, OK, settle here in the valleys.
That man is a veteran, by the way, was prosecuted after he claims a local Labour councillor reported him to the police for saying that we should basically get illegal migrants out of Wales. It took a jury 17 minutes to find him not guilty. That was it. 17 minutes, a jury of his peers went, this is nuts, get him out of here. So, we have serious questions now about the potential left-wing bias in our legal profession, the impact that political pressure has had on people like Lucy Connolly, but the pressure really now is on Labour. Will they reinstate Ricky Jones as a Labour councillor, or will they expel him? And in the last few moments, we just found something out that was quite interesting. I will stress this was a jury trial, so we can't sit here and claim that the judge in question has had maybe an impact on the verdict. However, Judge Rosa Dean is also a diversity and community relations judge. So it's just stuff like that, isn't it? A role that involves promoting diversity and community engagement in the judicial system. And it's people like this, isn't it, that are just right the way through our legal process. Let's get the views of our panel this evening. I mean, look, do you think that there's maybe some kind of issue here, Jane, when it comes to, you know, people being given terrible advice? Lucy Connolly's in prison, Ricky Jones pled not guilty, he's out and about.
I think hindsight is a really useful thing, but sadly for Lucy Connolly, that was the advice she was given at the time. But I think what makes me and many people really angry about this case is Ricky Jones. It's the status difference. Ricky Jones was an elected person of influence in that community. He had people listening who thought, yes, this is a man who knows what he's talking about, we respect him. Lucy Connolly was an anonymous mum on Twitter with, I think, very few followers when she was upset about the most heinous crime being committed. She was angry and she did a stupid thing and then took it down of her own choosing without being spoken to by the police. Surely at some point there could have been an opportunity for the case to have been reviewed and to be heard by a jury. But, you know, it's tragic, awful.
The hidden implication, whether this is true or not, but the hidden implication, Christo, would be that if you were, quote-unquote, right-wing, you were urged to plead guilty and you were going to be banged up. But if you were, in the case of Ricky Jones at the time, a Labour councillor, your legal advice would be plead not guilty, go to a jury and you'll walk.
And part of the reason I think that people on the right who had made mistakes and were wrong, incidentally, were given that advice was because the Prime Minister actually came out and called everyone who had been protesting far right. Now, bearing in mind that they were subject to charges at that point, how is that not prejudicing the trial? So, of course, their legal counsel will say, right, well, you've now been branded far right. The Prime Minister has said that, you know, you're all going to be come down on like a ton of bricks. So it is best that you plead guilty to try and mitigate any punishment you get. And I think, by the way, you're absolutely right that when you are a counsellor, it's like when a police officer commits a crime. There is a higher threshold than when you are a civilian. So I think, okay, you know, he's been found not guilty, but the quote is, talking about people protesting, they are disgusting Nazi fascists. We need to cut all their throats and get rid of them all, whilst running a finger across his throat. And you look at that and you think, well, of course you think not guilty, don't you? I mean, not guilty. Of course you read that, you think not guilty.
But no elected official should ever use that sort of language. Full stop.
A lot of people are going to be asking, how is Lucy Connolly in prison?
That's the point.
Her doing something wrong, and someone who arguably does something far more wrong on camera, who is an elected official, is not guilty.
Look, all for free speech and the right to offend. I probably offend a lot of people every single evening. I might have even offended some people in this room tonight, so apologies about that. However, you know, all for free speech. For me, it's not a case of, like, you know, well, OK, maybe I didn't agree with what he said. Maybe he should have been allowed to say it. And he has been allowed to say it because there's been no consequences for him. But that means that Lucy Connolly should also have been allowed to say what she said. And then she shouldn't be in prison as well. That would be my view. But there is a gentleman on the front row who would like to make a point, I believe. Is that all right? Yeah? Go on. What would you like to say?
First of all, I'd just like to say, how can a jury of 12 people see the evidence and not convict him? Somebody's been nobbled, in my opinion.
Well,
maybe Starmer's had an influence.
I don't think that we can say. We can't say.
There's something seriously wrong, because there is the evidence. He should have been convicted. I said all along he'll get off, because he's a Labour councillor and he's coloured. He'll get off. OK, all right. Well, look, there's some strong stuff there people might disagree with, but there we go. I mean, Steve, when you look at this, do you think now really maybe need to just look at, you know, have a little look at what Labour do from now on? You know, should this guy be reinstated? Should he be expelled from the party? What do you think?
I don't think there's a chance he'll be reinstated because of the toxic nature of this story. And look how much it's upset people. And when they come for you legally, remember to plead not guilty, because that's the key here. Otherwise, you're going down. That's the problem. That's the annoying thing. And sorry to be the guy that ruins all the fun. The two-tier system we're talking about now is that one tier is pleading not guilty and the other one is pleading guilty. So much of the problem of this is that Lucy pled guilty, and that's it. The ball starts rolling. That's where the error is. Whether we can actually work out if the legal system are doing this deliberately because of some left-right bias, whether it's because we had such a backlog in the courts, they were probably just trying to just plead guilty. Come on, get through it nice and quickly.
But she wasn't granted bail either, and I think that's why she didn't get solid advice, which he was granted bail.
Oh yeah, and the court cases so much after the time that he's had plenty of time to redo his homework and come up with a good case. But that's what it comes down to. Sadly, it's not about this. It's don't plead guilty when this stuff happens.
Well, yeah, there's pressure, though, isn't it? It's about a lot, getting a lot of pressure, and there we are. Charlotte, I just want to focus a little bit more, on, I suppose, on what Labour do now, because he is, I'm assuming, well, he's suspended, isn't he? But he's been found not guilty, and I stress that very much. Whatever some people's views on it might be, can't dispute that he's been found not guilty by a jury of his peers. It's the same judicial system that we would all go through if we were in that position. He's been found not guilty. But should Labour now, keep him as a member, as a Labour councillor, or not?
Well, I obviously think definitely not. But can they expel him, given, as you say, he's been found not guilty? I mean, if they expel him, they're punishing him for something the courts didn't punish him for. So I think they'll probably let him slide away, or, they'll try and bury it somehow, because that's what Keir Starmer does.
They could punish him for something the courts found him not guilty for, because it's a different standard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's true. And do you know what really shocked me in that clip, and continues to shock me, is the woman in the orange high-vis jacket
cheering him on.
Yeah. And it's just like, how did he not realise what a position of authority he was in that crowd, and a larger scale as well? Because people were hanging off his every word.
If an MP said it, there is the recall process. If enough constituents sign a petition, you have a by-election. There's not the same thing for councillors, and maybe there should be. We've had a stolen valour councillor in Wolverhampton. People are furious, but there's no mechanism to force a by-election or force someone to step down.
He may well be hoisted by his own petard, though, because, of course, he pleaded that it was his neurodiversity that meant that he said this. Well, if I was Labour, I would be thinking, well, I'm afraid then that you can't control what you say. I mean, this was his literal defence.
I mean, the thing is the cases like this, unfortunately, are probably going to keep happening because tensions are running incredibly high, emotions are running very high. We're seeing it all the time now with protests outside asylum hotels and various cases that keep emerging and all of that. And you just think, OK, all right, are we not going to end up with people being arrested and charged with very similar things going forward? Are they all going to get the same outcome? It can make a little bit of a mockery of our judicial system, potentially. But anyway, there you go. I will emphasise a couple of things. Ricky Jones is very much not guilty. He's a free man tonight. He was tried by a jury, pleaded not guilty, found not guilty. And also, just a quick apology if anyone was offended by any of the language that you might have heard there. It's very much a live TV show, and sometimes, unfortunately, those things do happen. But Labour sources have told GB News councillor Ricky Jones was administratively suspended from the Labour Party, and this remains the case. The investigation is ongoing. The Labour whip was automatically removed when he was suspended, and he will not sit as a Labour councillor. And we've also got something here from another Labour spokesperson who said at the time of his suspension, this behaviour is completely unacceptable and it will not be tolerated. The councillor has been suspended from the party. So we watch this space.